Welcome to Underappreciation, Macabre Edition. So while you all get yourselves comfortable, I have with me tales from the darker side of the fandom. Okay, maybe not that dark, but you get the idea. Tales that hardly get any attention, but yet can send shivers down your spine, make you rethink the value of life, and can really take you outside your comfort zone. So if I were you, I'd watch your necks and do a few extra push-ups as we begin with...
Carousel. Written by Thornquill.
Written by my good friend and Pride of the Apple's narrator, Thornquill. Set in the time before the events of the show, 4.5 years to be exact, Rarity has failed in her attempt to become a big-time fashion designer in Equestria. So, she is forced to return home to her parents and a newly born sister. Down, but not out, Rarity is able to purchase the old town hall, with dreams of reviving her career by turning it into a dress shop. However, while she has to deal with not only the fear of failure in both her career and having to move back into her parents again, but with another demon haunting the store, with its own tragic past. Will it be all too much for our little marshmallow? Now before we go on and get to why it's so underrated, let's focus on a few gripes I have with it. A lot of it you could say of it kind of being a prequel. Don't get me wrong, in the grand scheme of things, as long as a prequel doesn't overstay its welcome, or doesn't try to rub in your face over and over and over and over and over and well, over with bits like, oh, this is where that thing came from, and neat, that little detail came from here. Pre-stories can still be engaging as you see how the main characters and settings came to be. And does this story do that? For the most part, it does get a little heavy on that last little nitpick detail of mine, but in all honesty, that's really my only complaint with this story. In the end, this turned into something that really hit me hard and personally. A lot of which had to do with its timing when it came out. See, like Rarity, I too was looking for my own independence to move out of my parents' place. And as someone who was just going through the moving process while this story was being published, it really hit home at some of the details rather well, with both the joys and struggles one experiences since such a huge step in life. I was impressed with how well I could relate to Rarity's struggles, and aside from a few other plot details related to her trying to run her own business, and thankfully with the ghost, it felt word for word like what I was going through with my own moving out experience. Her parents constantly driving her crazy with her hobbies and life choices, feeling like that if she doesn't move out, she's just gonna lose her mind. And then finds, if not the most ideal place to live, with some tender love and care, she can afford it and goes for it. This leads to one of my favorite scenes when she wakes up in her own place without her parents hovering over her shoulder for the first time. A chance to breathe and actually get some work done. It was a really touching moment. And so much so, for about half the story, I was questioning why it even had to be a horror story when it probably could have stood alone as something more of a slice of life fic. Then we get into the identity of the ghost who haunts the Carousel, and it all came together perfectly. I'll try not to be too spoilery, but I will have to reveal a few things, including the ghost's name, Tula Rula, to explain further. Basically, the ghost of the story is used both to add psychological horror, but she also serves as a what-if plot for Rarity, and to a lesser extent, ponies like me going through what she is. A lot of what gives this story the horror tag aside from the ghost is the strain Rarity is going through. We see in her struggles to earn her independence as she starts to become a little self-centered and bitter towards her friends and family. So far, she even yells at Pinkie Pie, who starts off as a male pony instead of a party one, for forgetting an important letter, and doesn't think twice about it until Applejack sits her down. And even one scene where she has a dream of stabbing Sweetie Belle to death just for being a baby. as her pursuit for success pushes her further away from her loved ones. And while I'm not sure what the intended moral of the story, it is a story about the drive towards living on your own, about being your own person and following your dreams, but enjoying the time you have with the ones you should love and who love you. Rarity's and my own motivation to move out of our parents' house was because we were both starting to get annoyed with our families, and moving out seemed like it was our way to be free and to get away from them while following our passions. However, as the story rolls on and we get more of Tula's story, it makes Rarity realize how important her family and friends are. Sure, it's important for her to try to make it on her own, but by doing so, she was starting to push them away, much like I did with my own family for a while. And even if she doesn't spend every day with them, she does learn, in the end, just how important friends and family should be. Again, as someone who's going through what Rarity was at the time, this one really made me stop to think at some point. Though, what I love most is that this story was able to find balance, where others would have either made independence or family an extreme moral right or wrong, and that if anyone forgets the importance of one and lets the other get too far, it will result in the individual never achieving anything, or them becoming nothing more than a bitter and miserable being. So my advice? You should definitely read this story if you're considering moving out of your parents' place, as well as if you're looking for a good little psychological horror, which is always my favorite kind. That's all for today. Join me next week as we take a little look at something Lyrabon. And it's not a romance story.